it's good to be back in Silicon Valley. Always glad to come to Israel and talk about cloud. There's a lot of cloud innovation happening in Israel. So today, what I'm going to be taking you through is how IBM is treating OpenStack as the center of gravity of everything we're doing around cloud. If you've ever worked at a big company like IBM, you know that momentum is a very difficult thing to start. It's also a very difficult thing to stop once you have kind of a center of gravity that people rally around. And that's clearly how we're operating around with OpenStack today as part of the central part of our cloud strategy. The other thing that's important to understand about cloud is we consider it kind of a central way of delivering a wide variety of services. And there's a lot of moving parts, and have something like OpenStack, that community that provides that center of gravity so that we can do things together in an ecosystem is very important. Most important chart that I ever showed was the first one I had, because it has my email and my Twitter handle on it. So any kind of interaction is very much welcome. So feel free. All right. So when we talk about cloud, many people get confused because cloud means a lot of things to a lot of people. And one of the reasons why that confusion exists is because the cloud is very multidimensional. And unless you can properly operate at each one of those dimensions, you're going to fall behind your competitors. There's a lot of forces that are driving changes to the way we do traditional IT. And if you maintain business as usual, I've always done it this way, and you don't take into consideration new and improved ways of doing things, then you're going to fall behind the competition. One of the big struggles that we have with a lot of our large enterprise customers is they have a lot of intellectual property that they have stored up in their applications, in their IT processes, and they want to be able to unlock that. At the same time, they want to be able to expand new things. So you have to be able to work in multiple dimensions. You have to be able to take advantages of all the trades and devices that are out there. Mobile is significantly reshaping how we do IT, and there's a natural linkage between cloud and mobile. And you'll notice that 2 out of 10 of the world's largest companies in 2000 are around. And that means that the new competitors are coming aboard are multidimensional. They have the ability to react in what I call cloud time, things that are much faster. One of the earlier speakers talked about doing things more quickly, and that's certainly true. You also want to do things such that you can not only do things at a faster pace, but you can be doing things at a smarter pace. And you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to work in each one of these dimensions. So you have new challenges that exist. There's both opportunities and challenges, just like anything else. When you have new technology that comes onto the scene, it provides you a set of opportunities and a set of challenges. And one of the big things that you have to do is figure out how you can properly balance that. And one of the things that's really kind of happened at the same time as kind of the OpenStack revolution is this move from a traditional waterfall development model to an agile development model, this aspect of DevOps. So having the ability to give the developer autonomy, the developer some autonomy so they can do things on their own, has caused a big shift in where everything used to be kind of done in central IT is now more and more shifting to things being done outside of IT. It corresponds with that giving the developer more autonomy. And with that autonomy comes lots of more choices. The developers are free to choose things that used to be dictated to them. I knew, like, my oldest son went to college. He was free. He left home. He had no rules. All right. And about 6 months later, he realized he was failing. He was out of money, and so he needed to have some kind of structure and some kind of rule. All right, some kind of framework, and that's really what OpenStack really has done. It's kind of driven the community to rallying around common frameworks to put in place so you can maintain that agility, but also have a level of governance and control. Now, some of the aspects of what has happened with the OpenStack community. Actually started even sooner than that. I remember doing presentations and going around the world giving talks around service-oriented architecture, right? And one of the things that even my IBM colleagues sometimes forget is that the techniques, the goals that were there with service-oriented architecture are actually leveraged inside of the context of an OpenStack. And that's the basis. RESTful web services having the ability to make it such that your applications aren't monolithic and tightly integrated and vertical, but have the ability to be loosely coupled and horizontal. And the same thing happens on the IT side. So it is a foundation. It's been around for some time. And what's really kind of established kind of a difference in the way web services are enabling. It's an enabling technology, and there's also 6 business enablers that really are kind of driving innovation. This ability of trying to have more cost flexibility. If I can do things up front at a lower cost and a faster pace, then I can be more innovative. If I can do things where I can scale more quickly, I can become more innovative. If I can adapt to changes. So this aspect of agility, flexibility in terms of cost, the scale, and adaptability is very important. And then if I can match the complexity and I can leverage an ecosystem for the content that I'm delivering, then it gives me the ability to have what we call an API, the app economy or an API economy. APIs are very, very critical. One of the underlying things in the OpenStack is the ability to provide APIs that give you access to a set of agile services at the compute, storage, and network layer. And that's extremely important when you start realizing that some of these external forces like big data, mobility, social media, hyperconnectivity cause you to have to do things at a greater scale than you ever had to before. You have to do things at a faster pace than you had to before. You have to be able to do things in more of a real-time fashion. And so we have this concept that I call cloud first. Building things on the cloud for the cloud first. And it's a completely different model than kind of traditional IT. If I'm building a service on the cloud for the cloud first, and I'm using a continuous delivery DevOps approach, then I can get immediate feedback on that service. I can tell you in my IBM career, I thought I had some really good ideas for products, and we got all the way out to delivering the product, and it, like you heard the big thud when it hit the market, because we didn't anticipate some aspect of what the customers were really looking for. You can avoid a lot of those failed application development projects by using this continuous delivery kind of cloud-first approach. If I deliver things in phases, small increments, and I deliver that on the cloud, and I get immediate feedback from the ecosystem, and I'm willing to incorporate that feedback through a continuous delivery process, then I can make that better and better as I go along. I can avoid going down paths where it's not very useful for the ecosystem of users that I'm trying to address. So this is a very common process with mobility. People, when they started building mobile applications, they started very simple. They made those mobile applications available. They got feedback. They incorporated that feedback. This kind of convergence, if you will, between what's happening in mobile and cloud, kind of mobile first meets cloud first kind of approach, is very important. The other thing is that people have started realizing that they need to be thinking of mobile as a first tier thing when they're delivering a new service, right? In the very early days of mobile, you used to have to, deliver things in corporate IT, and then you had to figure out how to wrap certain things into some kind of mobile application delivery. Now it's the exact opposite. I want to deliver mobile on day one. And this aspect of engaging your customers, being much more real-time, much more interactive than ever before, goes back to what I was saying with the APIs. Right? If I deliver a service today and I don't have a good API to that service so that I can get immediate feedback and I can incorporate my service with other services, then it's going to fail. All right? It's going to be a DOA kind of an offer. And this aspect of cloud scale, especially for things that are big data in real time, the only way you can truly deliver a real-time service or a near real-time service is with this cloud-first approach. The ability to deliver a service when the service is needed, where the service is needed, to whatever device that person or application might be sitting on. And then that brings us to what I was talking about with cloud speed. All right, it's a completely different rate and pace. I think one of the earlier speakers said we used to be really happy with 10-day provisioning cycles, okay? All right? And the whole way we're doing business, if you can get to market faster with a more innovative solution, you're going to be more competitive, all right? And so this aspect of technology and business opportunities, if you can deliver technology and make it usable in a new and interesting way to solve a business problem before your competitor can, then you're going to have a significant competitive advantage. And CIOs have really started seeing this. It used to be that you had technology was down here kind of number 6. Now they're looking at technology. 71% of the CEOs believe that technology gives them an opportunity to beat their competition, being able to leverage that technology. So it's all about agility. Now, one of the things that's important is balance. You can be extremely agile and extremely reckless. All right? I know you can be passionate about something, you can be passionately wrong. All right? So you've got to have this balance between optimization and innovation. The ability to make sure, as you're delivering something in a cloud-first kind of an approach, that you're willing to accept the feedback from the community. I can tell you many times where people have gotten a cloud-first approach, and then they want to argue with the community about the use of the service. That's not really true to the spirit of a cloud-first kind of model. You have to be willing to engage the community, listen to the community, and figure out how you can optimize the delivery of that service. And if you notice that kind of the common themes here in terms of big data, mobile, cloud, security, intelligence, the CIOs mentioned that these are the things that are driving their business, their business challenges. And one of the things that's becoming increasingly important is these things being built on open standards. Like I said before, things are moving at cloud speed. Technology is rapidly innovating. And if you're locked into a proprietary solution, instead of being something built on open standards, you may have made the exact best choice, today in terms of a technology that's innovative. But 6 months from now, a new innovation might happen in the ecosystem, and if you're locked into that proprietary approach, your competitors are not. All right, and they're going to be able to outmaneuver you. So it's very important to have that flexibility so that you have a sustainable strategy built on open platforms. And OpenStack is kind of the center of gravity, like I said, where all the open standards activity is really revolving around. Before I took the job that I'm in now, I was in corporate strategy. And one of the things that I did in corporate strategy was I looked at OpenStack when it first came out. In fact, I embedded a couple of my guys into the OpenStack community when it first came out. And one of the things that I had a difficult time inside of IBM initially was getting people to understand that the way standards were developed today, the way standard activity was happening, was completely different than the past. All right? OpenStack as a community was kind of becoming the de facto standard for cloud. All right? Not your traditional standards bodies. And so, it's not your parent standards and open processes. So one of the things that helped inside of IBM was the fact that we had gone through this a couple of times before. When we first came out with WebSphere, before we came out with WebSphere, in the J2EE space, you had the Apache Foundation and Eclipse and J2EE kind of becoming kind of the de facto standard and the community revolving around it. You had Linux, where you had the Linux community kind of being an open standards body, if you will, for
operating system. And you see OpenStack kind of being that same thing. So after a good bit of time, about 18 months since the birth of OpenStack, became a very important time last year with the OpenStack Foundation. A formalized structure to kind of govern what was happening in the OpenStack community. There, and some of the other speakers mentioned the companies that are involved in that. And there's very large companies and very small companies. One of the things that I like about the OpenStack ecosystem is that OpenStack is a community that's not just based off of just small companies or not just based off of large companies. It's a really healthy mix. But there is now a foundation that's driving that. One of the things that's important to IBM is while OpenStack is that center of gravity for all of our activity, we also believe that there's open standards activity that needs to happen above that infrastructure as a service layer, above the compute, storage, and networking layer. And Tosca is a really good example of that. In fact, I had dinner with the Gigaspaces folks last night and we talked about Tosca. All right? Having the ability to create kind of a recipe, if you will, around an application landscape. What is that, the characteristics of that application are, so that you can then deploy that application on an OpenStack environment. That's a lot of focus that we have right now on Tosca. We also have OSLC. What we're trying to do is allow developers to be able to be as agile as possible with the continuous delivery DevOps approach, but also provide a framework for governing that process. Goes back to my analogy I was talking about my son going into college. 6 months after he started, he realized he needed some kind of budget, some type of plan to study, right? Some kind of framework. Did he want to go back home? Absolutely not. He didn't want the way things were before. He wanted to continue that kind of an approach. And it's the same thing here. When we let the developers move from that waterfall development model to an agile DevOps approach, it was in the early stages. It was kind of the Wild West. Shot everything that moved. All right. Anything that looked like a shiny object, the developers were attracted to. Then they realized that they needed some kind of framework in place. The IT groups were first ignoring the developers, and now they're figuring out how to work with it. So that's what we're trying to do with the OSLC work. And then we also have a Cloud Standards Customer Council. There's 450 plus and growing companies that are participating in this. And this is focused on all the standards related to clouds, not only at the infrastructure layer, but also the platform and the application layer. Really focused on how we can figure out how to drive innovation from the collaboration across an ecosystem. And we wanted to be based off of documented use cases and requirements. So real use cases, real requirements, making sure that we can rally around things that are kind of becoming a de facto standard and help shape them so that they can be sustainable over time. And like I said, IBM is really focused on kind of an open cloud strategy, and OpenStack is kind of the central core of that. But what we want to make sure we do is we make sure that we leverage the best practices, we manage the evolution of what's happening in the market in terms of innovation, and we make sure that we're focused on real use cases, not just theoretical ones. Sometimes it's easy in technology to get caught up in, a certain use case that's theoretical, that's made up. We want to use that kind of cloud-first kind of approach so we can get something in market, get feedback from the community, incorporate that feedback into the next iteration of that service and make it available. Right? So that kind of cloud-first approach is very, very important to us. And it's very important for us to have an open community around it. Okay? Any questions?